Is Moises Caicedo to Chelsea in danger of not happening at all? Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. Yes, it is the transfer saga that has been dragging its heels as far as what Chelsea fans are concerned. Moises Caicedo of Brighton. Of course, we know that he's been linked with a number of Premier League clubs in the past, but obviously the strongest link has been Chelsea. Chelsea have remained interested throughout a lot of this transfer saga. Personal terms have alleged to have been agreed between both the player and the club, and all it takes now is for a fee to be agreed between Chelsea and Brighton for the transfer to get the green light and to go ahead. However, things are dragging. The two clubs are in danger of not potentially finding an agreement, which, allegedly, if you're Brighton, is not necessarily a bad thing, as you're seemingly not in need of selling the midfielder. But for Chelsea, of course, maybe they could be growing impatient. Maybe they could be looking elsewhere at other options should Brighton continue to play hardball in this situation. We're going to be talking about the latest developments in this transfer saga. We're going to be talking about Chelsea, Caicedo, Brighton, and everything else in between. But before we go any further, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things are always incredibly greatly appreciated. Also, do get involved in the comment section as well. Would love to hear from you all on this transfer story. I'm sure you have a lot of interesting thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it. That'll make for interesting reading down below in that comment section. So do get involved down there. Talk to me, people. I'd love to hear what you think on Moises Caicedo and this big transfer saga that is continuing to drag throughout this summer transfer window so far. But without further ado, let's get on to the video. Let's get into this video. This is a player and a transfer story that we've talked about a fair amount in recent videos and in recent live streams. But it's one that is simply not seemingly moving at a quick enough speed, considering the start of the season is only a couple of weeks away. The transfer window is just over a month away from closing. Chelsea really, in my opinion, need to get some deals done and some players through the door, because things are starting to lag a bit in terms of incomings for Chelsea. And I think that this Moises Caicedo deal is something that is holding a lot of things up. I'm not saying Chelsea need a complete overhaul. They've, of course, got a lot of young players that I would expect we will be seeing a lot more of this season. But at the same time, I think they need a few more senior players just to plug up some holes, if only for the short term. Obviously, a lot was made last night about Chelsea's latest bid for Caicedo, and the Athletic ran with this, and Fabrizio Romano ran with this. I'm going to take what David Ornstein said. He said that Chelsea today sent £80 million offer to Brighton for Moises Caicedo, rejected instantly on email. Previous Chelsea bids 60 million, 65 million, 70 million. Brighton hope to keep 21-year-old, likely to take 100 plus million. He wants move and personal terms, no issue. The bid was said to be something in the region of 75 million up front and £5 million in add-ons. Brighton obviously want more. I reckon, and a lot of people reckon, that they've seen the Declan Rice situation play out the way it has done, and therefore Brighton believe that they have a better player than Declan Rice in Caicedo, and therefore believe that they should be entitled to more money, which is why obviously Brighton are playing hardball in negotiations with Chelsea right now in terms of obviously wanting more money. Do I think a deal will eventually be agreed? I believe so. I believe so. I think Caicedo would be a phenomenal acquisition to a Chelsea side that is going under transition right now, under a new manager, and I think Caicedo beds in perfectly with a Maurizio Pochettino system. And just imagining the sort of double pivot, if you like, of Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez, I think, would make a phenomenal midfield right off the bat. And I've said that time and time again. I think that would make a phenomenal midfield, and I think both players would complement each other very well. Add that to the Pochettino style of play, I think you've got a great midfield there right off the bat, and one that is extremely strong. And given the ages of both midfielders, of course, you've got them for the here and now, as well as about 8, 9, maybe even 10 years down the line in the future. That will easily pay off the extortionate amount of transfer fees for both players, of course. Fernandez wasn't exactly cheap himself. And obviously Caicedo certainly isn't going to be cheap if they can get a deal over the line. So, in my opinion, that the long term aspect of these transfers will pay off, in my opinion, the transfer fees that they have currently gone for right now. There's been conflicting reports from Brighton's side of things as to whether promises were made, as to whether or not there was a promise made by the club to actually go on and sell him in the summer. Caicedo is adamant that there was promises that he would be sold in the summer. Brighton have said that this is not the case. There was no promise made. They said that they would look into it, but no promise was made that they would just simply give him up the way that they did. And in my opinion, Caicedo really backed himself into a corner on this. Caicedo really did back himself into a corner on this by signing a new 4-year deal at the club. He was greedy enough that he saw short-term incoming in terms of money and salary that he felt he deserved for the bigger picture. Like, he's given Brighton all the power in this situation by signing a new deal. Whether that was intentional by himself and he was under the belief that they were going to be selling him anyway, or whether that was just stupidity on his part, or whether it was just Brighton lying to him, I don't think we'll ever truly know. But someone in this situation is lying, or there was miscommunication, cross wires somewhere in obviously the process in terms of when the deal was agreed to, of course, this point now where of course Brighton are in no need of selling him. Brighton are saying that they don't need to sell him. Maybe there was also a bit of a knock-on effect from maybe getting rid of Alexis McAllister this summer as well. Maybe that has triggered things a little bit for Brighton to maybe try and maintain the services of Caicedo. Again, we'll never truly know. But it's going to be interesting. And another part of this story is that Brighton seemingly want Levi Colwill. We've talked about Colwill before. We've talked about how he's attracting the interest of Liverpool as well as Brighton. And of course, he spent the past season on loan at Brighton. And that's why he's turning a lot of heads. Brighton want Colwill. And I think there is definitely a deal to be made there if there is a part exchange offer from Chelsea. The issue is that with Fofana's injury, with the lack of seemingly centre-back options that Chelsea seemingly have available to them, Colwill was seemingly going to be fast-travelled up to the first team, to the senior squad for this season, and he's going to be a big part in that defence. Is that going to be good or bad? For Colwill, only time will tell as to whether or not he can reach his potential or not. But Brighton are seemingly digging their heels in on this one, and I think the only bargaining chip that Chelsea have, other than money, of course, unless they decide to pay the entire fee that Brighton want, is the potential of a part exchange deal that will see Levi Colwill go the other way and Caicedo make the leap from the Amex Stadium to Stamford Bridge, from Brighton to London to Chelsea. And like I say, there's a few moving parts in this. There's a few things that could come into play. There's a few extra layers to this story. I think with Chelsea not moving fast enough, maybe a little bit, with obviously Brighton digging their heels in, I think there's a lot to this. Do I think a deal can be made? Look, it's entirely possible that Chelsea just give in, because I don't think Brighton are going to be negotiating this anytime soon. I think even if Caicedo kicks up a bit of a fuss about this and wants the move, which we know he wants the move, he's adamant he wants the move, he's already agreed personal terms, he's already stated multiple times he wants the move, but unless he goes completely AWOL and completely unprofessional, I don't think Brighton are going to be caving in. So it's either a case of Chelsea pay the money up front, Chelsea pay some money and part exchange Levi Colwill, or Chelsea move on and they look for an alternative. And there is already talk that maybe Chelsea are monitoring an alternative and maybe are about to hijack a potential deal. We've talked about Romeo Lavia in the past, and we've constantly mentioned that Chelsea are lingering in the background in this situation, and we've constantly said that Lavia is attracting interest from other clubs, not just from Liverpool. Of course, Liverpool have moved into the driving seat and in pole position in recent days, and of course are edging ever closer, it seems, to maybe striking up a deal with Southampton. But the longer that drags out, the longer this Caicedo thing drags out, the more you might start to believe that Chelsea could look at alternatives in that midfield area, and Lavia seemingly would fit the bill, considering Chelsea have already expressed interest in the 19-year-old midfielder. Lavia would represent a cheaper option than obviously what Caicedo would, and given his potential as well, given the fact that he's had a very good season with Southampton, been head and shoulders above the rest at the Saints, got a year's worth of Premier League experience, got a high potential, high ceiling, and available for somewhere in the region, you would imagine, of 45 to 50 million, like I say, would be half of, or maybe over half, under half of what Caicedo. Sorry, I had a bit of a just a brain, just a brain self-destruction there. Would be under half of what Caicedo's transfer fee would be. So, does that represent a cheaper option that Chelsea could turn their attention to? I think, in my opinion, Liverpool get this Lavia deal done as soon as possible. I think that is very close to being done and dusted, and I don't think there will be a hijack, but it's always possible in these situations where, of course, the deal isn't over the line. We feared with Arsenal and the Declan Rice situation, for example, earlier this summer, that, of course, that might potentially happen. It eventually didn't happen, but, of course, we have seen hijacks happen in the past, and Chelsea themselves have been subject to a few hijacks in recent years. We all remember Willian he was set to be going to Tottenham, and then, of course, he went to Chelsea. Even more recently, of course, there was Rafinha, of course. He was going to go to Arsenal. Then Chelsea hijacked that deal. And then Barcelona hijacked the already hijacked deal. And, of course, in January as well, we remember Mikael Mudryk. He was going to be going to Arsenal until Chelsea swooped in and just instantly paid the money to sign him and take him right out of Arsenal's grasp. This could potentially happen again for Lavia, but if I had to make a prediction on it, I think he does go to Liverpool, and I think Chelsea, whether it's now, whether it's in a day's time, a week's time, maybe even on deadline day, I think Chelsea do get Caicedo. I think they eventually cave in and they do go and get Caicedo. But there's a lot of layers and a lot of moving parts to this. Whether or not it's going to be straightforward, it's just a money deal, or whether there is going to be a part exchange, maybe Chelsea do maybe sacrifice Levi Colwill. I think Colwill is more important than Caicedo for the immediate future. Maybe not so much for the long-term future. So it's all about what Chelsea think is more of a valuable piece and an asset to them, whether it is going to be Caicedo coming in or whether it is going to be Colwill. Because I don't think Brighton are going to be negotiating. I don't think Brighton are going to be in too much of a rush and too much of danger, shall we say, to get this deal over the line and done with. Get this deal over the line and done with. Like they say, they want to keep Colwill. They want to keep Caicedo. Chelsea do have a potential bargaining chip It's whether or not they're going to use it. It's whether or not they're going to use it, or whether or not they're going to go all in and pay the money that Brighton want. We'll see if obviously a deal can be done. Like I say, I believe that it will be. I believe Lavia will go to Liverpool. Caicedo will go to Chelsea. And that will be that, I think. So we'll wait and see, obviously, if that is to be the case. Obviously, these are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of this Moises Caicedo situation? Do you think he'll go to Chelsea? Do you think Chelsea may pay the money up front? Do you think they may use Levi Colwill as a bit of a bargaining tool in this in this potential deal? Or do you think Chelsea might turn their attention elsewhere? Might Romeo Lavia interest them some more? Or is there someone else that you think Chelsea might turn their attention to? I'd love to know your thoughts, your comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, on this potential news story down below in the comment section. I'm sure it'll all make for interesting and great reading. Otherwise, hit that like button on the way up if you enjoy the video. Subscribe if you're new or want to see more content like this. Both things are always and probably greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video, and I'll see you all again soon in another video.